So we already talked about how merit can affect us on a total of 4 different levels, okay? Level of the mind, it happens immediately. On the level of personality, it comes more and more. Maybe it's a few months of regular daily meditation before it starts to really be noticeable that you are changing as a person. You know, maybe to become more easygoing, maybe your complexion becomes better as a result of your meditation. On the level of lifestyle, of course it's slower, but there are certain things which are associated with certain sorts of merit. As I mentioned in one of the previous days, although merit is standard, it's just a form of energy, like electricity is an energy, and electricity can give warmth or coolness or light. In fact, for certain sorts of merit in the categories mentioned, then there are certain forms of fruits or retributions of the merit which are associated with them, as if that sort of merit has a particular flavor. For example, the merit of being generous. What sort of fruits do you think that would give in particular? When you give things to people, how do you think that's going to come back to you? Sorry, can you say it more loudly? Wealth. When you give, it tends to come back to you in kind. Huh? So if you give things, then you tend to get things back. If you help people, then you tend to get help back. It's not just because someone saw you doing it, but it tends to attract the similar sort of thing that you gave in the first place. What Nicholas was mentioning, intelligence, how do you think that would come about? By meditation, by the sort of things where you're cultivating, reading the scriptures, studying, this sort of thing.
Or if you gave somebody a Dhamma book?
Yes, but some people give Dhamma books, they never read them, you see. Yeah, giving Dhamma teachings, it sharpens up your wits, you see. Even this lifetime, it sharpens up your wits. And that's not to speak of in future times. There are some people who say, if you want to be intelligent, then give education scholarships. But I would differ. I would say that you'd be more likely to get education scholarships. You have the opportunity to study, but it doesn't mean that you're going to be intelligent. The way you get intelligence is by giving the knowledge, not just giving the opportunity to study. And how about the precepts? What sort of results do you think that they would give? Strength, yes. Sorry? Not harmed. You would not be harmed by others. Any particular precept? That you would not be harmed by others? Not killing, exactly. Yeah. But it's also said to give beauty or handsomeness. So not only strength and health, but also good appearance. This comes with the precepts. So that's in general, okay? 3 particular flavors. And it's usually said that we try to get all of these. There's no use being rich if you're stupid and plagued with illnesses, okay? Otherwise, what's the point of being rich if someone is going to come along and fool you out of your riches? What's the point of being rich if you have to spend it all on hospital fees? So it's useful not just to be generous, but to make sure that you cultivate all 3 of the different categories of merits. Not just by giving things, but also keeping the precepts and meditating too. There's no use being handsome if you're poor and stupid. There's no use being intelligent if you are ugly, plagued with illnesses, and you're too poor to be able to put your intelligence into something useful.
Is there any difference of the degrees of beautifulness between 5 precepts or 8 precepts or 227 precepts?
Yeah, I think it's probably easier to think of it in terms of a person's health and strength. The sort of, we see many very long-lived monks, for example. Monks over the age of 100. It's not common to find people who live to over the age of 100, but a lot of monks seem to, make it. Maybe it's because of the purity of their precepts, which gives them that extra merit. If you want to look in your handout, there's a little join the dots exercise at the bottom of this page here, where you can try linking up the benefits associated with particular forms of meritorious action. For example, giving needed materials. What do you think you'd associate that with? Wealth. How about persuading other people to do good deeds? You didn't do good deeds yourself, but you persuaded other people to do them. I think you don't understand the word retinue. Retinue means a group of people around you who are devoted to help you with whatever you want to do. Yeah. Well, it's not social standing. Social standing is linked with another one, actually. To give a little bit of an explanation, some people, they just do something like they give a gift to the temple secretly on their own without telling anyone else, but they do a good deed. Such a person in future lifetimes would be a person who is rich but lonely. Because they did a good deed, they did it, but they'd never encouraged anyone else to share in the good deeds with them. Some people, they give a gift to the temple, and if they meet anyone else along the way, they say, hey, I'm going to give a gift to the temple. How would you like to join in as well? And as a result of their encouragement, some people may also give gifts to the temple. So they not only did a good deed, but they also encouraged the people around them to share in doing the good deed as well. Whether those people do the good deeds or not is not the important thing, but the fact that they encourage other people to do it means that in the next lifetime, apart from being rich, they will also be, they will have many friends who are also rich. Not only rich, but value doing good things as well. Some people, they don't give a gift to the temple, but they encourage everyone else to. How do you think that would work out? They would be poor, but they'd have a lot of rich friends. So if they ever need help with anything, they always have many people to turn to. But they can't help themselves, okay? And there are some people, they don't do any good deeds, so they never do anything generous, and they don't encourage anyone either. And such a person would not only be poor, they would also be lonely. They would not be able to turn to anyone either. So this is why you say, don't only do good deeds yourself, but encourage other people as well. Try to make that effort. But it becomes a little bit harder for Westerners sometimes because it tends to be a very much more individualistic society. We feel quite embarrassed to encourage other people. But, you know, we design our future. If we want to continue being individualistic like this in the future, then okay, follow your own lonely path. Keeping the precepts. I think it's physical beauty, restraint from killing, long life, yes, and also being protected from anyone else who might try to harm you. Restraint from cruelty, yeah. So you are cruelty. It reduces the health of others. So, for example, if you are whipping a horse, beating a buffalo to make it work harder, then of course it detracts from that animal's health. It doesn't kill them, but it detracts from their health. May it cause them to have a shorter life. So normally people who are plagued with illnesses are those who have been cruel to living beings in the past. Good temper. Try to think what category that might be in. It's rather like humility category. Well, it usually comes out with radiant complexion. I think you get that anyway, even without having to wait for next lifetime. But most people, if they are particularly bad-tempered, they tend to have a dark complexion as a result of it. If not in the present lifetime, then in lifetimes to come. Some people, if they're very angry, they may have a complexion like the bottom of a cooking pot. Congratulating others. Can you justify that? Let's find the other one. There are two things here, I think. There's power and there's high social standing. And I often get confused myself. Congratulating others actually leads you to power, because it's like you are supporting people to do well. So you get supported to do well. Mm-hmm. So it eventually puts you in a position of power. So it's to be a person who's big-hearted. In fact, it is a pathway to power. Sometimes we tend to associate a person who is stubborn and arrogant and treats everyone else like dirt. You would think that that's the person who's going to go on to be powerful because they treat everyone else like they're rubbish. But in fact, it's the opposite. It's the person who fits in with others, the person who appreciates other people when they do well. This is the sort of person who works their way into a position of power eventually. It's not power by force, it's not power by threats, but it's power by being accepted by others. As for the humility and respect, this would put you in a place of high social standing. Because when you pay respect to others, when you show respect to others, it comes back to you as others will show respect to you. So you'll be put in a place where people show respect to you all the time. And if any of you ever have the good luck to get to know people who are in a royalty or whatever, often you find that they have a very curious personality. That they are, in fact, they're not people who are arrogant at all. But the fact they manage to stay that way is because they treat people with respect. Respect is much more visible in the aristocracy than for people in general. Normally they're very careful about their manners in these sort of circles of society. Manners count, it's what makes a person. And meditation, intelligence. So what do we have left here? Why doesn't merit give its results immediately? Well, sometimes it does give its results immediately, but in order for it to give results immediately, Normally there needs to be certain conditions in place, and 4 of them are mentioned here. The circumstances you're in may lead a good deed to give its results immediately. For example, if you are, supposing you are in a family which appreciates people who does good deeds, then when you do good deeds, you're likely to be noticed immediately and given support and encouragement for that. In which case, those small good deeds which you do are likely to take root much more quickly. Whereas if you think to do good deeds, but you're in a family which really doesn't appreciate this at all, then you may very quickly give up any sort of inspiration to do good things, because you're not given a supportive environment. Gifts of well-being. This is an example of this might be, supposing you've got the looks of someone like Miss World and you do a good deed, then you'll be noticed for it. Really, being Miss World, you didn't have to do anything at all. Just the fact that you look nice, you already get put on the front of every newspaper. So if you were to do something good, then many people would recognize you for it, simply because of the fact that you are endowed with other things like good voice, strong health, good looks. It makes it much easier for you to see the value of doing good deeds. Yeah. On the other hand, if you do bad things, then people might overlook it more easily as well. Timing. This normally refers to being born at a time when the Buddha is around, or enlightened monks are around to be someone to receive your gift. I don't know if I told you a story so far about people in the time of the Buddha who gave a small gift, but immediately, as the results of those gifts came back to that person. Maybe I didn't tell you an example yet. Okay, very briefly. There was a poor ploughman who had no money to his name. Everyone else went to a festival in the town, but he said he couldn't go because he had to work hard for his living. Otherwise, what's the point of going to a festival if you've got no money to spend? So all morning he worked hard ploughing the fields. And every day his wife would bring 2 portions of food out to him in the fields for his lunch. But one day, as he was ploughing the fields on this festival day, as his wife was bringing the 2 food packages out to him in the field, she met an enlightened disciple of the Lord Buddha along the way. And they were not a wealthy family. But she thought to herself, some days I meet such an enlightened disciple on days when I have nothing to give. Sometimes when I have something to give, there is no enlightened disciple to receive my gift. But today the 2 things have happened together. I have the chance to give this to an enlightened disciple, and they also have something to give. So she put one of the food packages into the bowl of the enlightened disciple. And the enlightened disciple closed the lid of the bowl. And she said to him, don't just help me out this lifetime, help me out for the future lifetimes as well. So he opened his lid of his bowl and she put in the second food package. So she didn't have anything left for her lunch, and she didn't have anything left for her husband's lunch either. She didn't know whether her husband would be very pleased about this, but she took the chance. And she went back home again and made a new set of lunch for the 2 of them. Meanwhile, the husband was getting very hungry, ploughing the fields, thinking, where's my wife got to? Eventually, several hours later, she turned up again in the field and she said, I have got some news to tell you. She didn't know how the husband was going to react to this news. The reason why I'm late is because along the way I met with an enlightened disciple of the Lord Buddha, and instead of bringing your food, especially for you, immediately, I gave it to this monk instead. And he said, Sadhu, I rejoice in the merit of the thing which you have done. If it was me, I would have done the same thing. And after that, they ate their lunch and they fell asleep. And when they woke up, all the furrows which he had ploughed that morning had turned into solid gold through the power of the generosity of giving the food. And this gold was very special. When he saw there was so much of it, he felt quite embarrassed about it. So he called in the king to help him to lift all these gold ingots out of the place in the field. But every time the soldiers touched the gold and said, this belongs to the king, it turned back into mud. So it was only when he said, I intend that this gold be given to the king, that it would stay as gold when it was put in the king's cart. Otherwise it would be gold meant only for him, because it was as a result of the merit which he had done. This is one example of why, if you are born in a time when there are those of very high merit, as what we call a field of merit for those who give a gift to them, this can be a very decisive factor in making the fruits of the merit appear immediately after the gift is made. In our present day and age, sometimes we have to use a lot more imagination. Sometimes we have to wait a lot longer to see how the fruits of the merit may come back to us in our lives.